happiness went down the chain of command and fell on the shoulders of the very bottom layer, who had no one to be nasty to but each other. Despite the drudgery, Alice had grown and survived and had been at the Hall for 7 long years. It is possible that she might have been quite a beauty if she ever had the leisure to clean herself. But, as it was, she appeared to the others as a dirty, insignificant creature who never spoke. One day, when the Duke and Duchess of Havisham had an even larger house party than usual, tempers in the kitchen were running high. The guests had arrived 2 weeks ago and seemed destined to stay forever. For 2 weeks the servants had been run ragged, carrying slops, carrying hot water, carrying meals for what seemed like 24 hours a day, since some of the guests stayed up all night, while the others rose early to hunt or shoot. Then, horror of horrors. One of the guests had found a cobweb in his chamber pot and had complained of it to the Duke. The Duke had sent for the groom of the chambers and had given him a tongue-lashing. The groom of the chambers had in turn insulted the butler, who had berated the housekeeper, who had screamed at the head footman, who had cursed the other footman, and so on until the cook had given Alice a public whipping in the middle of the kitchen, for someone had to take the blame. Just when the beating was over, it was announced the guests would depart at the end of the week. Anger subsided, tempers cooled, and Alice crawled off to her pots and pans, white-faced and trembling, feeling so hurt in body and soul that she wondered if she would live, and, at the same time, praying she might die. Further good news was announced. His Grace and his guests were driving out that evening to visit a neighbour and would not be expected back until late the next day. The servants would be able to go early to bed. Alice bent over her work, dimly hearing the joyful cries in the kitchen and hating every single servant in the hall, and hating the Duke with all her little heart. It was new for Alice to hate. So far she had accepted the drudgery of her life as part of her place in the divine plan. But that beating had been the final straw. She hated the Duke because he was completely indifferent to the plight of any lesser being in the social order. She hated the groom of the chambers. She hated them all. For the first time in her life, she wanted to escape. For the first time in her life, she thought rebelliously that she was meant for better than this. But as usual, she said nothing, working steadily, working late until the good nights sounded from the kitchen, working over the pots by the light of one smelly tallow candle until she heard all the voices die away. Her bed now waited for her, if you could call it a bed. It was nothing more than an evil-smelling straw pallet which was kept rolled up in a corner of the scullery. She was expected to sleep neatly and quietly in the corner of the scullery and to awaken, as if by magic, at 4 a.m, no matter how tired she was. Alice had never seen any other part of the house but the kitchen. She had never been further away from the house than to the pump in the backyard. She was not even allowed to go to church with the other servants because she was expected to stay behind with 2 other drudges and prepare their Sunday dinner. She was so tired and sore and angry that she felt quite light-headed, and perhaps that is what gave her the courage to creep across the blackness of the kitchen and slowly mount the stairs to the upper region. Now the hall was said to be haunted by the ghost of the 8th Duke, who had broken his neck in a hunting accident around the year 1751. The next Duke, the 9th, had been as much a tyrant as the present one, and he had died of an apoplexy in 1789, and nothing in his life had become him like the leaving it. He had no direct heir, and so the dukedom and the title and all had gone to a distant relative, now the present Duke, who was supposed to bear a marked likeness to the 8th, being handsome in a haughty and arrogant way. But there,